This episode of Static is brought to you by Red Dirt Brothers Guitars.
I'm George Lang, and this is Static. In July, tens of thousands of people descended upon downtown Tulsa for the DFest Music Conference, featuring over 160 bands performing on nearly a dozen stages. And thousands of those people stayed to the very end to see the headliner, Cake. I spoke with lead singer John McCrae and trumpeter Vince DiFiore about the band's current state of independence, the recording of their upcoming studio album, and the current state of the music industry. This is Cake.
We came up during an era when people borrowed money from the record label in order to afford the expenses of touring so that you could, basically make some money selling CDs and then, pay the record company back the money that you borrowed. And so that was, when we actually would break even and make a few dollars from selling CDs early on. But as the value of recorded music descends, the whole thing is sort of flip-flopped, and we have to somehow scrape, all bands have to somehow scrape their living from touring and, sort of humiliating things like selling T-shirts and being in car ads and things like that. We haven't done that yet, but I imagine we have to.
When you're a young band starting out, there's a lot of optimism, and it's like it's part delusional and it's part grounded in reality of just knowing that if you take the right steps, you got the right group of guys, you got good songs, you're going to get a foot in the business, you're going to make it and be able to do that.
I think you can catch people's attention if you're good much more easily. But to stay in people's focus, I think, right now is a tall order, because I think culturally, I think we're more overfed than we've ever been. We're just like that guy in The Meaning of Life, the big fat guy who can't eat another bite. It's like, no, have a wafer thin, here, my band is awesome, have a wafer thin mint. But he's like about to just spew all over the room. And it's gross in a way, I think, right now. But it's also very exciting. It's an exciting time.
I get a sense that the community here feels really positive about DFest and what it does for the musical communities.
I know that there's seminars where people are learning about just, the ropes. And I think that's good to know, just how rigged the system is ahead of time. And if you can remain optimistic, that's great.
Red Dirt Brothers Guitars in Yukon has over 400 guitars in stock, including Paul Reed Smith, Fender, and many others. We love trades, paying top dollar for your quality used gear. Red Dirt Brothers Guitars, 1081 South Cornwall, Suite 201 in Yukon.
That was part of the great freedom of being on our own label, is that we don't have to look at our watch all the time. We'll release it when we feel like it. Probably, I think this year we'll start to release songs from it. We'll give them away to people that have signed our mailing list at cakemusic.com. And then maybe early next year we might release the album, if we feel like it.
I think it sounds more bold than any other Cake record. It's sort of like, when you're just learning how to tie your shoes, you get faster and faster, better, stronger at tying your shoes, doing anything. We've had practice as a group together working on this process. So, this time it's another step in that chain, and everyone's put the right foot forward and brought everything that they've learned musically to the process, and it's a strong record.
I had always watched artists who had chosen the path of independence sort of fizzle out, like Prince or something, and that had always, stricken fear into me about doing this. But we released a B-sides album just to kind of test the water. And we did pretty okay with that on our own label with various distributors. And so it occurred to us that, we probably can do a lot of what the record company did for us. The slimy things, like getting onto like Conan O'Brien or The Late Show or whatever, these kinds of things like Saturday Night Live, those are kind of greasy. And so I don't expect that we'll be on those kinds of shows anymore, because it really is about, people knowing people being friends and owing favors and paying money to people under the table. So I think that a band that's like been around for as long as us can probably continue to survive. But nowadays, who knows? You know, we may not be able to.